Welcome to the next episode of the Teacher Zone with Chris and Tyler. I'm Tyler Maroff. I'm here with my co-host, Chris Bates. And today we are going over the stir it up quadrant. Stir it up. What does that mean? Well, making things fresh in your lesson business without reinventing all of your systems, right, Chris?
Totally. Yeah. Tyler, you and I have done so many talks on systems, and formula and system is so important to success of your business. You have got to formalize things. You've got to get systems. Why? Well, number one, because you deserve it. Your stress level and your staff deserve it. Your wife and family deserves it, or our spouse. And the other reason is because humans actually really love formulas. We love the comfort of knowing what's happening. And the problem about Tyler and I talking about systems all the time is that it doesn't talk about some of the other aspects that is going to give you a really successful business. And this would be one of them, right, Tyler? I mean, basically, it's not all just systems. It's also throwing some spice in the stew, you know?
Right. But they're, like you say, whether you're writing a song or giving a speech, there's patterns and equations that work really, really well that make the listeners or the customer or the student or the families feel comfortable. They feel comfortable when they recognize that there's a pattern. And you've got a great analogy. What happens when the pattern's just vanilla forever? Tell them that analogy quick. Like when it's the same all the time with that lab.
Yeah. So a good analogy is Marvel. By the way, what made Tyler and I think about this is that we were discussing a book that there's a new book that we're into called Decoding Greatness. And it's by Ron Friedman, Decoding Greatness by Ron Friedman. And I went to an event where he spoke, and I called Tyler immediately, and I'm like, dude, this guy just so hit it on the head. And what he's basically saying is that everything is formula, that you don't copy, but you learn. And so in learning from all the best of the best of the best, you then are able to create your own. So a good example with Marvel. The anecdote is Stan Lee was really bored of just making stupid, run-of-the-mill, formulaic hero comics. They're pretty much like, the Greek a little bit, where, basically you have a hero that's perfect. And so with the hero being perfect, Stan Lee just thought it was boring. So he chose to go ahead and mix it up, and he took a chance, and he could have got fired from Marvel, but he took a chance and wrote one where the heroes actually had little human traits and personalities and flaws. Yeah, because really a superhero tale, as we've talked about in the hero's journey, is really talking about your internal struggle between your own challenges. It's not about you being perfect as a hero. It's about you overcoming your challenges and, day after day, reaffirming what it is you're trying to seek towards. That's the hero's journey. So the analogy is that if we all think about those movies, think about all the blockbuster movies, and think about the ones that hit time after time, like Star Wars and like Marvel and ones like that. Why do they hit time after time? Because if they keep doing the same formula, right, it would get boring. And humans can see through that, and we wouldn't keep going. But if you noticed, Marvel and now Star Wars are doing something really interesting, and Disney's so good at this. They have different directors. So they'll have a project that's like I don't know if it's 3 to 5 picture project, and that project will have a certain viewpoint from a certain team, but then they'll change the team on the next one.
Right.
So they're starting the same.
Or one character comes in and helps one of the teams we love, and all of a sudden there's one person different in the new movie, and it's like, oh, I got to know what are they gonna do? Like, this is crazy.
Totally.
Yeah, they mix it up. They're stirring it up.
They're stirring it up. So the whole thing that we want to talk about today is that, creativity For those of you that have smaller businesses, because if you have a bigger business, you're already doing some of these things. If you have a smaller business, the challenge with smaller businesses, we all do it. We think we need to reinvent everything. So what we end up doing is thinking, I'm going to be so creative, right? And everyone's going to love it. It's going to be really different. And you think that's your differentiator. What you don't realize is that your customers actually crave consistency. And in the E-Myth by Michael Gerber, he talks about this greatly. He says all small solopreneurs are really flaky, right? Some days you show up and things are really cool, like think hairdresser. Some days you show up and you get a cup of coffee and the hairdresser is really amazing. The other days the hairdresser is really not into it, and you show up and they're grumpy and it's not the same experience because they don't have a formula necessarily. And so what he's talking about is that the better companies have formulas and then mix it with stirring it up creatively. So you take the formula and then you stir the top level, but you keep the base of your business solid. So that's what we're talking about today, is what are the ways that we can stir it up amongst all the amazing systems Tyler and I always talking about. Let's face it, you got to have systems. The transformation formula, Tyler? We talk about attract, convert, deliver, transform, right? So we already have those 4 things that you should have solid in your business. You should have a solid attraction team, conversion, deliver, transform. But to keep it fresh every year, to keep your customers excited, why do you think Apple changes stuff all the time, but keeps a lot of it the same?
Right.
They stir it up a little bit.
Good point, bringing up the building blocks of success, which is that transformation formula. The deliver and the transform. The deliver part is what we're going to dive into. So this quadrant, the stir it up quadrant, lives in there. Yeah. So what we're going to go, there's 4 things we're going to go over today. It's the quadrant, right? The stir it up quadrant, we're going to go over some social aspects of your program. Then we're going to
number one, social. And social can include your brand.
Right. Then number 2 is the spirit of rotation. You've got some pretty talented staff on your rosters, and I wonder if there was a way, and I know there is, to have those teachers meet different students that they're not used to being with, and vice versa. So if we can mix that up, interesting things can happen. So that's number 2. Number 3,
or even mixing up the roster.
Right. So number 3 is pride and progress. So some measurements, some exciting things we can put into place. We'll get into that, of having the students take pride in the fact they're moving the needle. They are succeeding, and there's different ways to go about that. And then lastly, once in a lifetime moments. Every lesson business has the ability to create once in a lifetime moments at least a couple times a year per student. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sharing these amazing things we wanted to teach with our businesses.
Right.
They're there. And if they're not happening, we just need to help you unlock it today. That's it. Right, Chris?
100%. So steer it up. Here we go, baby. So let's get in number 1. Number 1 is social. So the first way you can stir up your business is to really work on the community part. So Tyler, it could be as simple as a pizza party. Right? It doesn't have to be a big deal. Social could be things like merch. Do you have fun merch and swag? Nowadays, you can find drop shippers, so you don't have to spend a lot of money on it. You can actually do orders, drop shipping just per the order. But the bottom line is that, are you creating sort of this element where you're stirring it up and letting your customers meet one another and creating a community? So right. Tyler, talk about social, some of the things we've done.
Social, for instance, we at our Performance Academy, at our lesson business, we have social things in place. It's a system, the system we already talked about. But the stir it up part, we still have to get creative with. Even though we've got social running through, there's kids that are very social with the same group of 12 kids, and there's 4 groups of 12 of one level and 4 more of another level, 4 groups of 12. And especially through a pandemic, they were just with their pods. But we have all these amazing people that aren't meeting each other. So what can we do? Is there some magic out there waiting to happen? Which, by the way, newsflash, equals and creates retention. So that's a no-brainer. This is all retention stuff. So what could we do? Well, in the past, we grabbed the teens and took them to Knott's Scary Farm on Halloween. It's a team building adventure because people are literally acting like they're going to kill you the whole time you're at an amusement park. And so you've got to bond together and run and scream and tell the person who's super scared to not worry, protect them from the next.
So
for
those of you that don't know Tyler, just to say, Tyler has the ability to make himself 8 years old again when he's with these kids and have so much fun. It's absolutely so addictive. Like you just, he attracts all the students to want to go do these fun elements. So do you have someone in your business?
It's an empathy pool that never stopped filling up, and there was never a leak. So I can remember back all the way to preschool, Mont Olive Preschool in Los Angeles when I was 4. I have memories of day-to-day things. So the memory thing that I got from my dad, my brother has it too, it allowed me to access that as a superpower. I can remember the troubles and tragedies of 13 years old. I can remember 7th grade and 3rd grade. And so if you can access that, or you've got someone on your team.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because if you can't, no big deal. Get a camp counselor like Tyler. That is the fun. Who's the most fun on your team? They should be the ones hosting the event.
The corporate card to go, and there 2 tickets for 2 directors to go, and then everybody else pays for their own. Make sure everybody's got rides, et cetera, and those kids become best friends, and you win. So that's one example.
There is a magic to that is so cool, Tyler. So the social is a big one. The other thing that we've done in social, I know a lot of you do a lot of these things. We're just trying to remind you to stir it up, especially coming out of this pandemic. So the other thing is doing things like movie nights, like parents' night out, like open barbecues.
If you're a music school, it's really easy to do. If you're more like a jiu-jitsu or karate school, everybody likes to come in and roll around and then eat food and practice stuff. It's kind of like an open gym. It's the same thing. And they might see people that don't go to the class the 2 nights you go to, and so on and so forth. It's not hard. Just get them there. Have the parking lot, a couple tents in the parking lot with your new merch that this is another point that the kids voted on. So you had 4 designs. Everybody voted, put their ballot in the hat, and you came up, and at the event, guess what's there? The one shirt that won it all, and you didn't even tell anybody who won. They have to show up to see, and then they get a shirt. It's not hard. You just sew it together. A lot of it overlaps, and you can create, just the social part can create once-in-a-lifetime moments, which are actually separate from this.
Totally. With the social part, we'll move on to the next one. But for social, the last thing I want to say is that all of you right now, as you're writing this down, I want you to go ahead and get with your teams and start planning your next social and start planning whatever it is from a branding standpoint, because that also includes in the social of kind of stirring it up. What's something really fun that you could offer everybody, whether it's a hat, whether it's, whatever fits your brand. Have some fun with it. So write that down and get with your team. Tyler, what's the next one?
Spirit of rotation. You could just call it rotation. There are people on your team that have different superpowers, just like the camp counselor, youth pastor power versus the, I'll just use our school, for example, someone that can make music theory fun. Like we have a person that does that. That's weird, but they can do it. So you find out, then you rotate the teachers. If a guitarist or whoever is studying with a certain person and somehow either at a workshop or a master class, they're working with the other person, man, it gets the juices flowing. There's a freshness. It's invigorating. It's like, wow, he has a completely different dimension and portal to the same thing I'm studying than my person does.
So Tyler's saying there's 2 ways that you can stir it up with regard to the spirit of rotation. One is you can literally have them change instructors. And what we're saying is don't wait until the students actually having issues to change the instructors. That's not the ideal situation. The ideal situation is to have your ear to the grindstone all the time and have your staff always communicating to where they just know, you know what, Johnny, I think would be so perfect with you. a different instructor, whether it's a group or a private lesson. Secondly, what Tyler's saying is have them visit other group classes or other opportunities that allow them to have something that really promotes their superpower. One of the things we do is we have a recording class. And so in the recording class, we attract both people that want to record, and we also attract engineer minds that want to learn that side of things. So really try and stir it up.
One, Chris.
What's that?
Dynamic duos. So you've got these two famous teachers at your school that stand out maybe above everyone else. They're the innovators. They're the personalities. Put them together and have them do a workshop.
Totally.
All of a sudden, it's like, boom. And they're like, wow, it's just like the characters in the Marvel movie. It's the same thing.
It's a great one.
And it's a team building experience for the team members as well. They get to know each other. And if everybody's in a sound mind and attitude, it should work out amazing. If it's not, then you get to rethink that team member and get them out of your school if they're not good at playing with others. So anyway, all sorts of litmus tests there to play around with.
Tyler, something that came to my mind on this, you guys, is your business should be so freaking stable with regard to your operational systems that this stuff is like, this is the candy. This is the fun stuff. Stirring it up should be enjoyable with you and your staff to come up with all the fun ways that you can literally mix it up. And some of you, by the way, that are listening, I know you're really good at this. Tyler and I aren't trying to speak down to you.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter if you're really good at it. All of our listeners need to renew their minds with this concept. Us doing this podcast is renewing our minds, and the brainstorm started recording. We have like 3 new ideas we're going to do. There's a drum clinic on the horizon that we're going to do on a day off where there's no rehearsals. So point is, I don't care how good you are, how long you've been around, you need stimulation of thought, creativity, and ideas. Even the best people, Chris, they know how to implement the ideas.
Right.
The chaos folks or in between, that's where like teacherzone.com can help take 60-70% of the friction away so you can have some freedom. That's a different concept. But these ideas are for everyone in there. Hopefully people in chaos hear these ideas and go, oh my God, I'm so inspired. Get me out of chaos now so I can do these. The people that aren't, congratulations, go do these. You're ready to go. So it's for all of you.
Totally. I mean, and Marvel example of stirring it up is another. There's the new Batman out right now, or it's Batman DC.
That's DC.
They're following the same formula. They get a different director every.
Never talk about comic books again.
I know. I didn't collect them, but
for those of you that are huge fans, I got you.
Actually, though, I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, God, I'm getting to where I actually think I'd be fun. But so. What I was saying is that, Tyler, what has there been? Like 700,000 Batmans? Like there's been like umpteen versions, umpteen Batmans, right? It should be the most boring movie at this point that none of us really want to go see. Why was I so excited to see it? Because I know they're stirring it up with there's a new character, there's a new director, and I'm not going to spoil it for you guys, but it's fresh. It's a fresh take. Now I'm excited to watch the next 3 or 4 in the project. So they did it again. They took the same formula. They took the same characters. They took the same, just like you in your business, yet they stirred it up with a new director and a new cast, and it's amazing.
Yep.
So there you go. Humans like what's comfortable with a little bit of creativity. We don't want to have too much creativity. And unfortunately, that's just true. And for those of you that are artists, you know this. The more avant-garde, the more no one will actually appreciate it till you're dead. And I know for all of us, we're trying to feed our families and have these lesson businesses that make an impact. So Tyler,
right.
Number three
is pride and progress. So lesson businesses all have students trying to take your vision and mission and love of whatever it is you teach and your staff teaches, and they're trying to enjoy it, get better at it, maybe become the best at it ever. Whatever their goal is, for fun or for to be a professional. Pride and progress are things you can sprinkle along the way so that the work they're doing between private teacher and student or group and teacher, there's the little increments of time that can have their progress stand out, so, and be appreciated and be rewarded
yeah.
and celebrated.
And some people have like really like distinct curriculums, which is awesome. And you'll have like actual levels and all that stuff with reward systems and all. You know, I know with dance studios, you've got a lot of that, and you've got the belt system in karate, and you know, I know with the there's things like the Royal Conservatory in music and things like that. You've got all sorts of systems. That's part of what we mean, but we also mean that there's every student is very unique. So what are the other ways that you can help them sort of celebrate or cement their progress? Like really sort of be like, right? And I mean, and the funny thing is you can literally come up with whatever you want. We came up with one recently called the Ambassador Badge, because Teacher Zone has gamification and badges and all that. And so now, you know, students that are showing above and beyond, they can actually get an ambassador badge.
Right. Yeah. And those badges stack too. So you can take pride in the fact that, wow, and you're not asking for the badge, it's being noticed. So if the badge starts to stack, you wear that with pride, not the bad pride, the good pride, the internal, I am doing something that's making a difference. I'm getting better at things. Whatever you think would be really cool to have around your school, to have either the group or the individual be celebrated. And remember, when groups see others being celebrated, it inspires them. So if you can get that,
so basically, well, and that segues to contests. Contests are a great way to inspire people.
Right. And the Teacher Zone made it really easy, because contests usually have something to do with measurements, right? So when you've got a lesson business and you're herding 200 cats, 200 to 400, sometimes 1,000 cats a week, okay, perfect. What are you going to do? Regardless of the prizes, what and how are you going to measure? Well, we used to have to think of things, ticket sales for concerts and things like that, and the numbers would be there. But prior to Teacher Zone, we didn't really have attendance reports. We didn't have, like at our school, we had nothing. Teacher Zone really opened the metrics so we can measure certain attributes that the kids portray on a weekly basis or daily basis with the practice timer. And that's one of the ways that we have a pride and progress meter in place. We'll do a 60-day contest with, last time it was 2 different electric guitars and a recording interface and microphone were the 3 prizes. And it was based on the practice timer badges and point systems that you can sort in Teacher Zone. So all we did when it was over, and the kids can do it too, they can sort.
We just ran a date range. Yeah. So we just put the range in, boop, there's a winner. First prize gets to pick whatever item they want. Second gets to pick what's left, and third gets the last item. It was awesome. So now we have really neat ways. Technology kind of helps us have an instant thermometer. The only reason we wouldn't do it is because we're lazy and didn't think of it, or we're too busy, or all of the justifications and excuses are the only reason now with technology to not have a pride and progress meter at your school. You can't grow what you don't measure. You know, and I don't know who first said that, but it's true. And the more you measure, the more fun you can have with it, but celebrate the growth. So pride of progress. So, and the last one's oil moments, once in a lifetime moments. Moments.
My daughter just had one. My 7-year-old daughter, who is new at sports. She's been riding horses for a long time. So she's got this interesting grit about her. Very interesting girl, Zella May. And she tells us she's been wrestling for like 3 months and going to practices and stuff. And she got whooped up on, even though she fought hard at this developmental tournament. She's 7. Okay. And after that, she's like, yep, I want to go to Iowa Pee Wee State Tournament. She said that. And we're like, okay, first of all, we're thinking, okay, that's about $600 hotel. It's 2 hours away. We got to get somebody to watch the horses. And, so that's like what mom and dad thinks. But then we look back at her and go, are you really? Yep. So we go. She's still putting the moves together, and she, in one of her matches, and all out of all, there were 36 kids at the 55-pound weight in her bracket. 36 55-pounders. And in one of her matches, she was down 5 points to 4 in the first period. And we're on the mat, coach is on the mat, and there's thousands and thousands of people in this. It's an ice hockey rink. They convert into the tournament, and there's 8 mats all together, and there's wrestling going on all at once. It's insane.
Crazy. I remember,
whistles everywhere. And she starts off the second period, shoots, grabs her leg, puts her down, and ends up pinning her. She's 7. She's never pinned a person in her life. Not even in practice, kind of. She just has it.
And it wasn't a quick pin, by the way. I saw the video. She worked her booty off, and she stuck with it, and she got it. She earned it.
Hey, it's only 37 seconds. I should send it to you. You can edit it onto as a B-roll on the back of this video.
Yeah, totally.
But the point is,
so fun.
She lost 2 other matches and was out. She ended up she won 2, lost 2. And didn't place, but maybe in the top 15, which is still amazing. But she lost a lot. She got beat up pretty good. She didn't care. I've never seen her in a better mood, even when she rides horses, which is her favorite. Something was different after that, and will be forever. That's a once-in-a-lifetime moment.
Yeah, for those of you that don't, there's lots of good books out there on this, and lots of Tyler and I've talked about it before. But the concept of oil moments is that humans' brains, we prune everything. That's why our memories are so unreliable, because most of our past we prune. So the brain only does 2 things, right? Memory and imagination. Otherwise, it's present. And so when it's in memory, it's only going to remember things that really are impactful. So that's where oil moments come in. Their oil moments are things like your wedding. They can be bad moments too, right? We all have those. But oil moments are things that you are peak moments is another way you can say it. So with peak moments, how can we create those in the lesson business like Tyler just explained? And what's so funny, Tyler, is actually that meet that Zella went to, it mirrors the other thing we talked about, the Pride of Progress. So it was both a once in a lifetime moment, and it measured her progress at the same time. So you actually killed 2 birds. And then if you had everyone buy shirts beforehand, now you did our social and branding one, right?
Yeah, well, that's school pride, right? Pep rally, school pride, letter jackets. Like, it's not new. And you guys, I know you guys know this, but it's how you disseminate the ideas. Do you just go, hey, shirts are out. It's fall. Here's the link. Is that what you do?
Right.
No. There's a way to release on top of 2 other things. Like,
why do you think I had a Star Wars sleeping bag? I mean, what?
I still have my second grade GI Joe lunchbox, and I found another one in mint condition in a collector's store 35 years later, and I bought that.
That's so cool. I still have that sleeping bag and some of my other Star Wars stuff. And I'm thinking, since it was 150 years ago, like, it's going to be worth so much. The sleeping bag's worth like $8. I looked it up. I was like, oh man, I thought it might be vintage. Maybe people would want it.
That's hilarious.
So cool. So that's the 4, you guys. Stir it up. Hopefully this inspired you to maybe make a little change, and just kind of stir it up. We don't want to change your systems. We actually want to keep dumbing those down to formulaic. We want you only having a couple offerings at your program, so you're not
think of it as a module that attaches to either the calendar rotation of your year, the what you already have in place, and just think of it as it just attaches to it. It's an idea that attaches to your flow. You don't have to interrupt or halt things. It just attaches.
Well, in many ways, the stirred ups are kind of rewards in a way, right? It's almost like you're basically giving people something to constantly keep them from becoming static, from like thinking your program's just, nah, I'm just not into it anymore. You know how every student's going to go through that. It's inevitable, right? But the more we can keep them involved, the longer they'll stay, the bigger impact you'll have. We know that everyone listening you're changing lives, and we love that. All of us are changing lives, and bravo for that. But how can we do it a little bit better? Tyler and I are saying, go ahead and stir it up.
Yep, stir it up. And guys, thank you for tuning in. And if this sounds like something one of your friends or colleagues needs, please just forward it on over to them and have them subscribe, because we're going to keep doing these modules and these quadrants. And we're coming up with formulas. Chris and I have really come into just our own understanding of how to convey this easier. And so send this out to people. We're here to help you all, and we want you all to succeed. And again, this podcast is also brought to you with love, and also by the company teacherzone.com. That is who we are as well as a business, and it funds this podcast. So anybody that needs help in redefining their systems in their schools so they can get to the point to have fun, send this teacherzone.com. There's unbelievable little tools, a webinar they can click on, this podcast. It's all right on the website. So give them the gift of getting out of chaos, and we're here for them as well. But thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you on the flip side. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Thanks, Ty.